Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Ellis, and I am filling in tonight for Miss Gwen Johns. And I'm here to introduce your host of Outkast Pirate Radio, Chris O'Toole.
Hey, what's going on? And thank
Hey,
you, everyone, for coming for another episode of Outcast Podcast Radio. My name is Chris O'Toole. I will be your host. And first off, before I even, go on my little kick today, my little spiel, I just want to say congratulations to Letriana and also to Gwen Johns for being on the front cover of Paranormal Underground. I think
that's
that's
pretty awesome.
pretty awesome. I really do. And and tonight we're just gonna have like a little laid back night tonight. You know, um, of course, a lot of things have been happening lately, and especially in the media. And I look, man, I try to stay away a lot, you know, um, from politics, but unfortunately, there, a lot of things have happened, and in a matter of God, a few days now,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess because it really not only just touches me, but touches other people that I know. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to live stream somewhere else while I'm doing this. Yeah, so as you know, the big beautiful bill passed, or it's most likely going to pass. It already passed the Senate. Now I guess it has to go back to the House or whatever. And that being said, I'll just kind of give you a little brief story of my life. 2024 was pretty bad. I mean, it was bad for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Just with inflation and everything like that, the economy, all that. But also, too, my wife lost her job um, almost a year ago, and my job really didn't suffice all the bills, So, and I end up, basically not working much anymore. I worked for Uber for 5 years, driving. Uber got greedy after they paid off, their investors. So they started taking over 60% out of my paycheck, which they've taken that. So if I made $1,100 or $1,200 a week, I was lucky to get like $450 weekly, which we all know that a lot of people cannot, pay bills on that, you know. But also too, getting back in the workforce, I used to work for IATSE. Hopefully one day I will go back, once I'm physically able to. But in order for me to do that, most likely I have to be on medication to do so. So for 5 years, I fought to get on Medicaid that I got routinely denied. I have some underlying health conditions that offset it from the COVID vaccine from the Moderna. Um, for us to go to work, we had to be fully vaccinated, especially in the entertainment industry. And we had to wear have to have the vaccination around us showing that we were vaccinated. If not, we have to go to the gate. And I mean, and I understand, because it was a crucial time. But we all have to work, So, it was neither, most of it was mandatory. You had to take it in order to keep your job. So you wouldn't spread the virus to other people, you know. And so I took the Moderna shot. I had a bad reaction to it. I ended up in the hospital. I couldn't breathe. It messed up my lungs. Not only that, it messed up my lungs, it damaged my kidneys. It damaged my liver. It offset, me having chronic fatty liver disease or whatever. And because of that, because it made it worse, I want to say, because when I was about maybe like right before I took it, my enzymes weren't high, they weren't elevated, but then all of a sudden, my liver started doing. crappy. So because of that, it's hard for me to work a labor job because I cannot be on my feet for a long period of time because what ends up happening is my leg will start giving out and I'll just fall, and a lot of that is because of my liver, because when your liver acts up, it affects your muscles, makes all your muscles weak. Not only that, I was diagnosed with asthma too after taking the Moderna shot. If you don't get enough oxygen in your lungs, your muscles do not work properly. You get tired more easily. So for that being said, I'm like, man, I'll do anything to get back in the workforce to make some great ass money like I used to before, and and just ride that wave of technology and doing audiovisual engineering. But right now I'm limited of doing so. Because that I lost a lot financially. But all I need is, some type of help, benefits to get my medication, to get where I need to be, possibly physical therapy, so I can get back to work. So this big, beautiful bill, and pardon my French, fucks over a lot of Americans. It only helps the rich, and I have friends who are millionaires, and I love them, and I don't judge them because they voted for Trump. Most of them don't even like Trump. They just voted for him because they wanted to keep their money. Which I think if I was in that position, that would probably be the same way. And now, finally, after all these years, I got accepted for Medicaid. Now, am I going to lose it? Now it's jeopardized. Are we going to lose the benefits that we need? I have a child who's special needs. And he needs that. He needs those benefits. And they say, oh, well, the people who really need it, the people who are handicapped or mentally disabled or whatever. I mean, to me, that's just utter bullshit, because right now we're having hard times with our benefits. We've done everything according to what, the law wanted, and we provided that. And, now we're having issues. So, and I just see that things are not getting better in America. They're not. Where are all these jobs that are supposed to be here? Where are all these craft jobs? My uncle's been out of work for 6 months working in construction. So has some other family members. They're just starting back to work. And people tell me, oh, well, it's a season thing. No, it's not a season thing. Because when I work for IATSE, that's a season thing. We work on January to March or to June. Then we have the summer off, or the summer's really slow. And then it picks up to September, to 1 week before Thanksgiving. And then it's completely dead, basically, from then on to the new year. All right. So when I was younger, when I would work for IATSE and it got slow in the summertime, I'd go work at the chemical plants. Because of the chemical plants in the summertime, they were busy, they were bussing. And I understand too, because the price of gas has gone down, so there's going to be less work for people here. Because I live in a state, especially a town, gas and oil basically runs this place. People work at the plants. A lot of them do. So I'm concerned about where that brings us, because there's really no middle class anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's no middle class. And I just know that, we were middle class, and even to buy groceries, because it was so expensive, 4 items cost $40, and What now? It's twice as it's more than that. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's I think what's wrong with America right now because we're all greedy. We're all selfish. We think about ourselves. We don't think about, the repercussions, farther down the road, until it happens to us. And then we think, oh, damn, you know, that's what happened to me. I'm not going to lie. Look, man, I was ignorant. I was ignorant and I was arrogant 11 years ago. I probably am to a little to extent. Everybody's that way. We all got a little bit of that in us. I remember that I grew up in a very conservative family, which I'm proud of that. Don't get me wrong. I love my family a lot. But they were, and they were in law, not law, but law enforcement back in the day. And I made sure I never got in trouble. I try to be the best person, in society. I tried not to, put myself in a situation, where I'm going to get in trouble. Okay. Well, sometimes that kind of fails, and I mean, I have been to jail, a couple of times. Um, but it was a cause and effect of a situation, and I say couple, I mean twice. So the second time that I went to jail was totally not even, I don't even know exactly how it even transpired. There was this crazy woman, long story made short. She got in a fight with the manager. I happened to be at work. And and at that time, I had an afro and all that. So when I left to walk out and something told me, like, don't leave, don't get that pizza because I was waiting to get off of work. And I was working a part-time job to put money back in our savings after we didn't get our son, and we spent $15,000 cash when it came to his adoption process. And so we were trying to put that money back in the bank. And yeah, and so two cops came, and one cop came straight to me. He didn't go to the two white people that were fighting. He came to me, he spat in my face, he told me to shut the fuck up. Then him and another cop threw me against my vehicle. Then I had a pizza in my hand. Not only that this happened, one cop put the bulge of his penis in the crack of my ass and whispering to me, I'm going to teach you a lesson. Now, for years, I didn't disclose that because I was pretty embarrassed by it. That's humiliating, very humiliating. But now I don't give a fuck, like I really don't. So here I am. I get charged for a crime I never committed. I got assaulted by police. And I'm sitting in jail and I'm wondering, how did this transpire? I didn't do anything, and I used to work in law enforcement. I used to work in the jail system, so when it comes to the peace officers in the state of Texas, it's similar. You know what I'm saying? You just take another test to get a license to be a peace officer, patrol officer. So of course, my mouth, after I told him I was not doing anything, I basically recited the Texas code oath, and I can't remember off the top of my head the, ethics, what you're supposed to be as a law enforcement officer. And of course, it made it even worse situation because they, rough handled me. I told them 3 times. I don't know how it is in every state, but here in the state of Texas, if you get apprehended by officers and they're using brutal force against you or any type of force and you're not resisting, you say, I am not resisting arrest 3 times. They don't mean that they have to let you go, but they have to let off of you, period. And that didn't happen. and so forth. After I said it, I told them I did not break the law whatsoever. And so what they did is they handcuffed me and they tripped me and I fell on my face, and the cop said, "Well, I got you now for resisting arrest." Hey Rez, how's it going? Thank you for
Hey,
joining us
Riz.
tonight. So, and then I went through all these emotions, man. I started having panic attacks. I didn't want to be around cops. When I saw a cop, I freaked out. I did not know that I had an infection in my intestines, and anyone who has an infection in their intestines, especially if it's bad, believe me, it is not a good feeling, and sometimes it makes you hallucinate. And so I was sick one night. My wife was driving, and I guess every all my senses were just really really hyped up, and I don't know what happened. I guess I had some type of episode, and when I did, and see, and at that time, a few years, not a few years, but a couple, maybe a year or so, I lost my mom, and I didn't grieve like I should have. So that night, I think everything just came down. I remember being at a gas station, and I just fell down to my knees, and I was crying. I guess it was the realization my mother was not coming back. In the process of that, I see a cop. And when I saw this cop, I guess, I started having, I guess, I don't know, maybe I had post traumatic stress. I saw this cop and I ran. And when I ran, they chased me. And then they threw me on the ground, they handcuffed me, and they were going to take me back to jail. Um, and by the grace of a rookie cop who was being treated like shit by the other cops, he defended me and he said, "No, she's sick. She needs to go to the hospital." Now, with all this being said, and in hindsight, yes, it kind of messed up my life for a very, very long time. I'm still suffering from the repercussions of it from, over 10 years ago. But at the same time, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because it made me become humble. It made me realize that this whole time I was being duped. You know what I'm saying? Like, this whole time, here I am thinking, oh, well, if this person got pulled over and he got the crap beaten out of him, then obviously he deserved it because he did something that he shouldn't have done. And it happened to me. So when it happened to me, I changed my tune, you know, and the gist of the story is this is how it happens. It's a human nature. When we are in a position where, what, we're not worried about financial burdens, we have investments, we have all this stuff, life is going great. We don't think about the other people that are struggling in this world. You know what I'm saying? Who are struggling, who need some type of assistance. And I'm not saying I'm asking for handouts. No way, no shape. I never have. I never asked for a handout. You know, um, this is the first time I've ever received some type of assistance in helping my family or our family being helped. For a very, 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 very long time. So we got to wake up and we got to really look at the situation as Americans because there's people who have, there's people who have not, and I just want people to be aware that there are people out there are really struggling, and they're not trying to live off the government. They're not trying to fraud the government. These are genuine people, and my thing is like, if we pay taxes all these years and we need some type of benefits. Those benefits should be eligible for people who pay taxes. You know what I'm saying? I want my tax money to work for me. And the times that, and it's been very, 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 very few, it never has until recently. And now the realization, you know, I'm not giving, and right, like we see, yeah, and I agree with you. I totally agree with you, Rez. My thing is, we've always been a working family, you know, and we should never look. You always help people, always. That's all. That's how I feel. You always should help people. I do shit for free that I should not be doing. I should be getting paid, but I don't because I'm trying to help people get where they need to go because I know that'll be a blessing for me. You know what I'm saying? In the long run and everything. So, Sean, what is your spin on this?
I know there's a lot of people that take advantage of a lot of stuff that shouldn't, and there are people that are struggling all over the world, as in the fact of, and one of the things that I've actually been looking into, there's some things we're getting taxed for no reason. There's no reason for us to be taxed, and there's things that we don't even own that we think we own, and we don't even own them at all. We're just paying people to have them, and that's not right either. Because once you pay for your house and you pay it off, you should be done, and the taxes should be done too because you paid off all that.
Right.
And the fact is also, you put your 20 years in, you should be able to retire and not worry about something. Instead, we're worrying about taxes. But yeah, it's got us twisted no matter which direction you go.
Yeah, I mean, because my thing is, it's like, if I had money and they're like, hey, you know what? Since you were, you're declared upper class, then, you need to pay those taxes. I pay the taxes. You know what I'm saying? Because the fact that I know if I pay my taxes, my tax payers' money is going to help people who need it. Now, yes, there's people who commit fraud all the time. There's people who do that. And most of these people who commit fraud too, it's not really just Americans, it's people overseas, you know?
Oh, yeah, I
And
definitely agree with that too.
yeah, and basically stealing people's, you know, um
And
tips and
I
everything.
will agree with this too. There's a certain location in Illinois. I won't name out a location, but everybody knows where that is. That the fact is that just robs the rest of the Illinois people, and it's bad
It
because like I said, you know, we get. I've had my property taxes raised like 9 times in almost the 15 years I've lived here, and that's retarded.
damn.
That's retarded.
Yeah, and
I
like
pay I pay more in taxes than I do on my house payment, and that's not right.
no, it isn't right. And see, and that's what we're having an issue right now in the state of Texas, especially, in the Houston area, because the price of living has skyrocketed. Like, of course, Austin and Dallas, those are going to be expensive places to live. But they're talking about how people are moving out of Houston because the cost of living is so much. And part of that they're blaming on is climate change because, as you know, we're below sea level.
Mhm.
So, what they're saying is that the people who live below sea level are the more lower class income families. You know,
We've got low
the, ci-
income
the, the,
class families all over the
right,
place, though.
the city of Houston, is buying out properties, flood zone properties, from people so they don't live there. But when you get closer into downtown Houston area, the price of the cost of living is going up. I mean, the average for a one bedroom apartment, market price one bedroom apartment is $1,300 a month. You're lucky if you get a 600 square foot apartment. So if you have a family of four, okay, and you lived in this area where, it was a high floodplain and all that, and you move, closer into the city where it's not a floodplain, because how basically it is, you're paying more for property that doesn't flood than you pay for property that does. You
Yeah,
know,
I know. Rent here for some people are probably 2 grand just for rent, and that's retarded. I mean, house payments. If you actually have a house payment, it's cheaper than paying rent at this point in time. But still, then they're clipping you on the taxes.
right? And so, like my daughter and her boyfriend, they rented a house, and I want to say it was $1,800 a month. So they were going to renew their lease, and the landlord went up to $2,000 a month because our property taxes continue to go up. Greg Abbott is trying to stabilize our property taxes where they don't go up, you know. But like we don't see a difference. It's still the same. Like I can tell you how much I spent on my taxes on the house that I used to live in. I paid this house cash, straight up cash. I paid $50,000 for this house. Okay, they wanted 85 for that and a half acre of land. That's pretty cheap. All right. My first offer was 50K, and they didn't even counter offer me. They took it. I thought it was kind of odd that they took it, but at the same time, I didn't know at that moment, or really knew at the moment, that the house was haunted. A lot of stuff was happening there, but also too, the taxes were outrageous. So for a half acre of land, okay, and one shed, which is what didn't count for the tax because it was on a sleigh bed foundation, so that it's tax exempt. In a 3 bedroom, 2 bedroom home, yeah, I paid $6,000 a year on taxes, and it went up to seven. You know,
No, I took it down too quick.
yeah. Put it back up real quick.
The other one,
Not this one. Yeah.
there you go.
So, all right. So Rez says foreigners come to this country and open businesses, and they get 7 years tax free. And then you have us natives to pay taxes no matter unless you live on your reservation or work for your tribe. Yes, that's true. Like, people from the Middle East come over here, and open up gas stations and so forth.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
they 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 get special treatment,
yeah.
and they don't have to
Most
pay for 7 years.
even motels when they open it up, some
Yeah,
of the government pays for it.
and, and
That's
see,
not right.
and I don't know if it's just here or just national or whatever, but like we're currently working with a business that's an Indian business. And I've worked with foreigners before, that have their own business, and what they've told me is, especially having a gas station and everything, is that they get grants, to open their business here, and they have to pay it off, or they have to start making payments like after the 5th year or at the 5th year. So what they do is right before that 5th year hits, they'll go and sell it to a family member,
Oh yeah,
or they don't have to pay those taxes or pay the money back. And then it's another cycle of 5 years. And before they do
yep.
that, then they go and they sell it to another family member. And then
Making
they start
hand,
having multiple things. But
making money hand over fist when the
right,
people that actually need money like that don't get it.
right. But my thing is, it's like, why can't Americans do that? Why can't Americans have their own stuff? Like why can't we have those advantages as well, people who want to start? Because my thing is, like, with America, you can start your own country. I'm sorry, you start your own business. You can be an entrepreneur. You don't have to worry about the government being a part of that, or have to ask permission from the government to have your own business. And a lot of us Americans, not gonna lie, I'm just gonna be blunt, a lot a lot of us are lazy. We don't take advantage of opportunities. There's some opportunities out there that we could take advantage of and make money. You know, like, so for instance, in real estate, as you know, you really don't have to have a real estate license to make money in real estate. I was even looking at this. I was looking at Section 8 housing because you can get $1 million grants from the government to build housing in a rural area, and either you can sell the homes, make money, or they can be rental, and then the government pays most of the stuff. Now it's probably going to be a little bit different, but we need more housing. That's the problem. That's why a lot of places are so expensive to live, because there's not enough development.
Well,
You know,
I know one thing here where I live. They spent like millions of dollars on a library, and then they're taxing property taxes at another $90 just for that library when they said it was paid off for by grants and everything else, and it was not. That library, doesn't have very many people at it, and they paid millions of dollars for it. That to me, that was a waste of money when they could actually give housing to vets that need them that are homeless, because now we got homeless people living on the front porch of the library, and
and see, and
they,
that's how it is here too. We have a lot of homeless people who hang out around the library. Now they limit, the homeless people that they can only stay in for 10 minutes, and then they have to leave because the heat is excessive outside. So they get consideration, but that's where you start running into trouble too, when you do have homeless people going to libraries. And I'm not saying that all homeless people are this way, but there are homeless people who are registered sex offenders. They're going into a library with children,
hmm
or they're high on drugs, on meth, and they're being around children in a library. I'm not okay with that. But
uh,
I do agree with you that,
I like you
if
said, I agree with the fact that they shouldn't be there if they're sex offenders or drug abusers or anything else like that. But the fact is, spending that much money on a library when you have the internet at the palm of your hand and you can look up anything you want now.
my thing is why are you going to spend all that money on a library when part of those books, I mean, I don't know how it is, like, in your neck of the woods, but where I'm at, I mean, they've already erased history, in the school curriculum.
Well,
You know, I mean,
they've done that in a lot of schools, but
like, there's no black people, in in the history books, like in our history books now. I mean, we all know history in school, they just skim the surface, the basics of history. I mean, we really want to know what happened, you really got to, you know dig down deep. But there's a lot of teachers who refuse to teach history, and there's a lot of opening for history teachers, and people are not taking those jobs because they don't want to be put in a position. I mean, my wife, she lost her job over something that was just, she was a teacher. She was a teacher for 12 years, and a great teacher at that. Our children love her. She worked with not at risk children, but minority children, and in tough neighborhoods. And she was able to get them to have respect for her, and teach them. Plus, she was ESL, and she taught a lot of immigrant students who came from North America and South America. You know, um, at that time when people were coming and abandoning their children across the border, that's when she started. Some of these kids saw their parents get killed by border patrol, and living in foster care. and everything. And so, I mean, it's all around. It's a sad situation. But she lost her job because two kids decided after school that weren't supposed to be in her class, and she reported repeatedly, to her principal and to the people, the hall monitors who were supposed to watch the halls. And last it was like the last bus that was supposed to be, I guess everybody's supposed to be getting on the bus, and she was getting her stuff, and she happened to turn around, and there's three students that weren't supposed to be in her room, three students, and two of them were slapboxing each other, and the other one was videotaping it. When she saw it, she immediately stopped it. But since her voice was on the recording, her principal made it sound like she was instigating a fight club, which that wasn't even true. She got reported to the state of Texas. They had to do a an investigation and all that. Um, Basically, she got a reprimand for it, but it's sealed. So that means that they can still see the reprimand, but they don't know what it's for or whatever. But my wife, she's fully transparent, and she's blackballed. She can't get a job, man. She applied to 26 schools. She went to several interviews, and they said, "I'm sorry, we can't hire you." She even, got hired on as a substitute for the school district that I went to, that I went to when I was young, and they were going to put her in a substitute position for the rest of the year, and then if she did well, then they're going to give her a full-time contract. Well, she went 3 days and in training, and then they were like, "Sorry, we can't hire you." So right now, that's the hardest part. She can't get a job. She can't get a job here as a teacher.
There's not a lot of jobs in my area at all, and that's the bad part.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and that's one of the reasons why I've been wanting to go back to Austin, because the job market's good there. It's solid, because the job market runs, on IT, on technology. In Houston, it doesn't. It works on gas and oil. Gas and oil and fluctuates. It's volatile, you know. And over there, it's steady. I did great in Austin. Came back here, went to complete utter shit because of the job market. So, like for instance, if I was an IT tech working at the school here, I would start off at 16, $17 an hour, doing the same job in Austin or on the outskirts of Austin at an ISD. I get paid $42 an hour for the same thing, for the same job position. Yes, the cost of living's a little bit higher there, but at the same time, I'm making a little bit more money, to offset. Here, not so much. I mean, but it's all hard for us, especially anybody who lives in a rural area. I mean, it's hard, because the only good jobs is Walmart, or Dollar General, or Family Dollar, or the Piggly Wiggly, whatever. There's not that much, opportunity unless you go to school, you go for law, or, better yet, a lot of people don't know this. You can make great money getting your right of way license. It's kind of like real estate, but it's dealing with, how can I say, like dealing with, utilities, like dealing with land. I can't, with easements, so, and if you live in a rural area, that's a good job. You know what I'm saying? Because people are putting lines in all the time, gas pipelines, all that. But I just wish it would get better. And look, man, I'm not here to, like, dog Trump. You know what I'm saying? My thing is, I hope everything does work out. You know, I hope it does. But I'm a realist. I do a lot of research, and the things that he's implementing, it's been implemented before, and it screwed America over. That's how we
Well,
got into the depression, and in the 1920s.
there's also underlining things that go with that, and being restricted to do certain things as well, and that's not right either.
No,
Um, but I think when time comes, I think things will probably start straightening up because there's things starting to straighten up in this area. It's just taking a little time, because the one thing we need to do is get rid of some of this major taxes that's going on right now, because they're taxing everybody's houses, they're taxing everybody's property. They're just there's no reason for it, especially in this little town that I'm living in. I mean, it's about 100,000 maybe in this town, 140,000 maybe. But the fact is, we've got more restaurants here and I counted the restaurants. We've probably got 150 places to eat here.
hmm
And job wise, they've taxed the jobs so bad they left. And we need to get better representation here to get these jobs in this location and keep them
right.
here.
You see, and that's one thing. Like I have an issue with is about the job, like the job growth market. Okay, so and this is the realization of it is when you have a politician who says, I created 85,000 jobs, and I'm just talking for my state, in the state of Texas. If you narrow down those 85,000 jobs that were created, most is in retail. Most are restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where you can't make a decent wage because you're only getting part-time hours
Right.
that don't give you benefits. Like, look, man, Texas is the worst. Like, when it comes to the whole freaking United States, we are one of the worst. That we have the worst healthcare. We do. We have the worst healthcare. We have the worst childcare. I can't tell you how many times I have worked a full-time job and I was not able to get benefits.
Yeah.
you know so that's why when I hear these politicians and all that who voted for the big beautiful bill about we want to get people on private insurance, like basically what he was saying, get them to work and put them on private insurance. Well, guess what, there's a lot of companies who don't have insurance. That private insurance is only for management, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. We don't have that luxury where we automatically get benefits. And I'll tell you, the times that I have gotten benefits, I've gotten benefits from other states that I've worked, like companies who are out of state, like California, or what was the other one? I think it was like New York or something like that. I mean, I had benefits right off no, it was Washington State. I had benefits right off the bat
I think
from
I
from
think
day
I
one.
think I think one thing that really hurts in general is the fact is our paycheck gets taxed. It shouldn't be
Right.
getting taxed at all. I don't care what state you live in. It shouldn't be getting taxed. You're paying taxes on your groceries. You're paying taxes on your car. You're paying taxes on direct TV, your cell phone bill, your property tax, your wheel tax stickers, your license plate stickers. You're getting taxed. Your personal check should never be taxed.
Yeah, I mean, I see, and that's the thing. I remember I used to bring home like right before 2000, right before 9/11. Excuse me. I used to bring home about $2,000 a week.
Oh yeah,
Okay, after all the taxes were taken out, I was lucky if I got 1,000 of that. Because they took a lot out of my paycheck. I mean,
I
of course, it goes to whatever, Medicaid, and I worked for the union, so of course they took, their fees
Yeah.
out and everything. And yeah, but I mean, even when it came to healthcare, we still had to pay out of pocket, because how our healthcare worked, it by contract, whatever contractor we worked for, they paid in $20 a day into our
Yeah.
flex plan, our entertainment flex plan.
Hmm.
Okay, so when we would accumulate so much money, then we would go and put it, to our insurance. So my insurance back in the day, I think, was $400 a month. Okay, but this is the shitty part about it. The shitty part about the entertainment flex plan is that every person that you add is that much a month. There's
Oh yeah.
no family plan where it's just one big group,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know? So when Obamacare came through, then that $450 a month came up all the way to $1,000 a month for healthcare
Yeah.
for each person in the family, out of pocket. $4,000 a month for healthcare, out of pocket.
Yeah. It's retarded. It's outlandish.
Even like
It's
even when my wife was a teacher, they were taking $1,600 a month of healthcare,
yeah. It's
and that
it's
was
it's
just
outlandish everywhere.
it is, and that was just for her and the kids. That wasn't for me. I was $500 more added on,
Well, like I
and so
said,
I just couldn't. That it was too much because I
we got
mean,
we got 2 minutes left, Chris. So
we got 2 minutes or we got 10 minutes.
we
We
got.
got 2 minutes. Oh yeah, because we started
Well,
late.
I'll give you 5 extra, but we got 7. How's that? Since we started a little late.
Nah, no, it's okay. It's okay. No, yeah. So, guys, I ran into technical difficulties. Look, man, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I do not like Streamyard. Streamyard's great when it comes to us communicating and all that, but Streamyard's a bitch when it comes to audio hardware when you're trying to hook up and make work. Because I, man, 7 minutes,
And
7 minutes.
it's it's way too expensive too.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? And like for years, I mean, that this was my job. When there was like an audio issue, you know what I'm saying? I had to fix it immediately and everything. So I had to put these on and see. And like I have I have two basically professional mics that don't work on here. I have a recorder, a Zoom recorder, which is great, condenser mic. For some reason, my browser's not recognizing. It keeps on kicking me off and all that. But I really enjoy, you know, um, I don't want to say hooking up with you, Sean, because that just didn't sound right. Like, Sean, I'm so glad I hooked up with you tonight, dude.
Uh,
It was the bomb. It was the
it's
bomb.
it's all good.
I'll never be the same again.
I love that we could all joke around and we could all talk and be open about things, and that's one of the best things about being on a podcast. You can take everybody's opinion on how you want it, and we're still friends afterwards.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you know what I love about all access, network television is that we are a family, and we we don't take shit from people. We want to work as a group, and we're not all about that 15 minutes of fame. Let's throw somebody underneath the bus. You
Right.
know, it is what it is. I mean, we all have issues. There's people going to be annoyed with other people. It just happens that way, and all that. My team leaders use a Zoom recorder with streamed. See, yeah, and I basically use it for, doing, voiceovers, especially for video production, because I definitely use the Zoom, to do that for my overlays or for my voiceovers and everything. But I just think maybe my Zoom's just old, you know, maybe there's a driver that I need to like upload.
I know when
So,
I used to use Zoom, it sucked.
yeah, it's and it just recently it started giving me issues, but I think because it's giving me issues, it's because I'm using newer technology. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So compared to like using on my on my MacBook Pro, which I would definitely use that if I had you know an audio software and everything totally. But hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Hey man, thank you Rez for your comments. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you Sean for being my co-host tonight. And coming up next, we're gonna have Nathaniel Elwell. So definitely tune in for him. He's a great guy. I love him. You know, he's my buddy. So thank you so much tonight,
No
and
problem.
y'all have a great evening. And don't miss the next show. And thank you so much.
Yep. Have a great one,
Have a
everyone.
good
I'm
one.
going to run two. I'm going to have two more commercials here, and we'll be out of here. But have a have a great holiday weekend as well.
Join us for the Paranormal Rockdown. We kick off the event Friday, July 18th from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Main Street Music in Brooklyn, Wisconsin, where we feature bands Left on Red, Switchblade Saturdays, Etched in Embers, Fiction We Create, January, Again We Rise, and our headliner Green Jelly. Saturday, July 19th, starting at 11 a.m. at Broadhead Manor in Broadhead, Wisconsin, we have our Paracon featuring Dave Schrader, Sam Beltrusis, Scotty Rourke, Dustin Perry via Zoom, Sarah Lamos, Nick Simons, Kenneth Drake, Stream Beacon TV, Dark Realm TV, and over 30 more great guests you won't want to miss. We have over 40 vendors, speakers, workshops, gallery readings, and so much more. A special thank you goes out to each of our sponsors. Get your tickets before they sell out at paranormalrockdown.com, and we hope to see you at the Paranormal Rockdown.